now.
Unmute, artist.
All right, try a third time. I hit M for unmute and it just wasn't doing it, sorry. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this last investigation. I kind of spied on a lot of your conversations about things, and that's been really helpful to me to see what your initial reactions are, what you notice, what you don't notice. And so thank you all so much for all the input you've given, and I really appreciate the detail that many of you have put into your evaluations. So we brought you back early for this last day because we actually have a lot to cover in our short time remaining. And I'd like to start by just talking to you about some future plans with Rubin Observatory, because I think a lot of you are kind of interested in this and want to know a little bit more about this. And it has to do with when are these going to be ready for classroom use, and if you can use them, and etc. So I'll first of all say that we are building 4 more of these web apps, and they're scheduled to come out anytime between late August and sometime early next year. So what we are planning on doing is having 4 more single session webinars through the National Earth Science Teachers Association. And each one would be about 90 minutes long. And we would follow a similar format to what we've done this week, where we have a guest speaker to do a short talk, followed by questions and answers, put you in a breakout room to go through one app, and then bring you back for a short wrap-up discussion. The big difference would be we wouldn't be looking at all those individual learning components that go along with the online investigation. So the first one that will be coming out is hazardous asteroids, and that should be coming out by early September at the latest. One of the questions I have for you in the evaluation tonight, which is super important for me, is if you have a choice and you'd like to join these live, would a weeknight work better or would a Saturday work better? And if you could please be so kind to let me know, that's the way we'll go with making our decisions. So what does our future look like, and when will these be ready? Well, first of all, we are still doing what we are calling user testing. This is what you have been helping us with. And that is different from pilot testing, which we will do later. And I'll explain to you right now what that difference is. As I said in the beginning of the week, it's really important for us to know if we've got the main plan right. And so what we've been asking you to do is kind of a brief snapshot look at our components and to give us your initial round of feedback. After we get a bunch of people, including students, who are really our end users, after we get a bunch of people's input from that, we will move on to do a round of refresh. We'll take everybody's input, we'll look at what we have time and resources to do. We will prioritize what we feel are the most important and useful things to work on and to modify or add. And then when we have all of that done and our investigation has been styled, we have pictures added in all those places that right now say image placeholder, and we have a web page where you can access these, and some sort of initial class management device so that you have a way to get a saved set of answers from your students. When all of that is in place, which will probably be the middle of next year or so, we will begin pilot testing. In pilot testing, we'll select a very small group of people to put it in an authentic classroom situation where we are assuming that the investigation and the support materials will deliver the learning outcomes that we say it does. We'll be looking specifically for some teachers who are doing NGSS teaching and for some teachers who are not. We are definitely going to want college instructors to test it, as well as high school instructors, as well as some students who teach advanced middle school, like honors courses. Because we'd like to get feedback on all of those levels to see how well it's working for you. The pilot testing will not happen all at once. We will roll into pilot testing as we get each investigation ready for that. So it could be that in the beginning we have 1 or 2 investigations to pilot test. We will offer that opportunity. And I will tell you that we are looking carefully at the feedback you're giving us, because there are some people that we know will be excellent pilot testers because you have been very thoughtful and thorough in your feedback. And some people who might not be so excellent at pilot testing because you've been giving very short or very little feedback. So we also will be looking for people who teach diverse student audiences. So we want to make sure that in our pilot testing round, this will work with, for instance, ESL students. It will work for students who have special learning needs, whether they're learning challenged or whether they're advanced learners. And so we'll be looking specifically at some audiences too when we ask for pilot testers. There will be some stipend associated with pilot testing because we are going to ask you to give us much more input than you have, for instance, in the 45 minutes to hour this week. We will begin first pilot testing only in the United States, but as these investigations are translated to Spanish, we will also begin pilot testing in Chile, which is our other primary audience. Pilot testing probably will take us all the way through sometime in 2022. At that point, we will begin phasing into professional development, where we'll train teachers about how to use these investigations and make them familiar with all the different support materials we have available. And with professional development, we will begin launching our investigations. One question has come up is, do we have to wait until you have data in your telescope before we can use these? And the answer is probably not. As long as our data that we have works for the investigation, even if Rubin Observatory data are not available, it's potentially possible that we will launch these investigations. But we want to make sure that we have a robust data set and that it's not simply like what you've been seeing where we have, 2 or 5 different images, but we have a nice variety for an entire class to use. One of the richnesses of our data is how deep it's going to be, how much we're going to have. And by the way, I just wanted to mention something about this investigation you just finished with images. And I don't know that anyone has brought it up this week, but our telescope saturates at magnitude 17, which means any object that is brighter than magnitude 17, which would typically be most of the objects people are familiar with, we aren't going to have good images for them. So in essence, you're going to have an entirely new set of images to create from objects that are much fainter than what people traditionally use with their school or observatory telescopes. So hopefully that kind of answers these questions in terms of what our timeline is. We don't have an exact timeline because, as with the rest of the world, our telescope has been shut down for construction because of the pandemic. So it's unclear to us when we can open up and continue building. Once we know that, we will have a better idea of when this telescope will be coming online. But right now, we do not know that. We're hoping sometime in 2023. I wanted to mention also to you that today's homework is, as in previous days, there's 2 different surveys to complete. The first one is evaluating the app that you went through together as a group. And the second one, we're going to be asking you specifically some questions about formative assessment and also about what kind of classroom management tools you need to be able to make these work for you. So as I mentioned before, we haven't decided that. We're going to take your input into consideration. We're going to look at our resources and our timeline and build out whatever tools that you identify are the highest priority tools. And by these tools, I mean, the ability to interface it with your class management system, or do you need a PDF output, or do you need screenshots of individual student data sets? Do you need some kind of tool to group students together and have them use one common data set, et cetera? So please give some thought to that. Be very specific in your feedback tonight, because you are the group we are leaning on heavily to kind of set the direction for our future work. The last half of that second evaluation today is a general evaluation of our workshop. Since we are planning to do some more of these in the future, we greatly appreciate your comments. I know that some of you haven't been filling out evaluations this week because you don't want a certificate of participation, but I really would appreciate if you could do that to give us some input for future workshops that we do. And then lastly, I wanted to talk to you about when are the deadlines, who's going to get what, when, where, et cetera, how. So about 2/3 of you want a certificate of completion. And we've got you covered because on every single form that you have filled out this week, I've asked you to write your email address or your unique identifier in the last box. I know a few of you emailed last night or wrote it on the Google Forms, which is fine. So what we're going to do is give you through the weekend, through Sunday night, to complete all of the assignments. And then Monday, I'll start taking a look at this and correlating and seeing who I have all the information for. And then we will be emailing with an attachment your certificate of completion as quickly as we can, because I know some of you are starting school very, very soon. Excuse me. Another thing that we are going to be doing as a thank you gift for those of you who have stuck with us all week and faithfully done everything we've asked you to do is we have some prizes to award. We may not have enough prizes for everyone, but we're hoping we can get something to most of you. And what we're going to do is look again at who completed everything. You do not have to be in the live session every day to qualify for these prizes, but you do have to have completed all of the homework assignments, which meant you viewed all the recorded sessions by Sunday night. So again, on Monday, we'll take a look at that. And I'm gonna turn this over to Peg just for a minute to talk about one of the prizes that Nesta is going to offer.
Thanks, Artis. So the board of the National Earth Science Teachers Association decided to provide 50 scholarships, 50 memberships to our group for a year. If you're already a member of the National Earth Science Teachers Association, you'll get a year extension on your current membership, but we hope that you will be willing to join our group of educators, K through college level, who have a particular interest in the geosciences. We have the Earth Scientist publication. We have monthly newsletters that go out with just chock full of information and great links to opportunities like webinars and websites. We have web resources that I think Artis has mentioned on the website. Some good resources for geoscience and space science people. So I hope you'll take advantage of the membership, join us, and get involved in other like-minded people, and hope that you'll stay with us. Thanks.
Thank you, Peg. So those Nesta memberships are $40 per year, and so we're giving you each a year free for those 50 people. In addition, I have some small Amazon gift cards. They're not much, they're $10 each, but this is what we could afford. And we have about 40 of those to award. The gift cards can only be awarded to US educators because they were purchased in the US. That's not our stipulation, that's Amazon's stipulation. So we'll take a look at that. And then we have one very nice prize to give away. Actually, two of them. There's an astronomy shop here in Tucson called Starizona. It's, in my opinion, one of the very best places in the country in terms of expertise, repair, and equipment selection. Dean Koenig, who is the owner of Starizona, has graciously offered 2 $100 gift certificates for us to randomly draw for teachers. And these could be teachers anywhere in the world. If you don't want a telescope, Dean has a selection of books, other kind of observing aids, star charts. And what we'll do is we will email you if you are one of the winners, and we will put you in touch with Dean. We will also give Dean your name and email address so that he knows when you contact him that you are legit. So I wanted to go over that. Sometime early next week, we will draw for those prizes once we've established who has finished all of the requirements. I know it's not much. You've given a lot of yourself this week. We appreciate your professional conduct. We appreciate all of your insights from the many different places you teach. I certainly appreciate your enthusiasm as well and all the feedback you're going to give us. But it is what we can do. And so hopefully you'll accept these thank you gifts. And that's all I have for you. If we have just a couple minutes left, if you have questions about things I have not covered.
Artist, there was one question earlier about what time zone would evening be for the future ones possibly? Or what would it be based on?
It would be based on 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and the reason, or Eastern Daylight Time. The reason is we know that 8 p.m. on the East Coast will allow people across our country to participate because they'll be out of school if we do it on a weeknight, with maybe the exception of Hawaii. Anything else? Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop recording.